In this episode, I take an old VCR and turn it into a Raspberry Pi 3 media center, inclusive of a 1TB hard drive and a DVD player. So the parts I've used for this project are an old VCR, and I've just gutted that completely, a Raspberry Pi 3, a 1TB USB 3 hard drive, and a USB DVD RW. In this case it's a Samsung version. The important thing with the DVD is that it has a Y cable. Some of these DVDs, including this one, will run off a single USB port. However, in this instance, we're not getting enough power from the Raspberry Pi 3 to power the DVD player. So if we use a Y cable and take those wires through to the power supply, as well as through to the Raspberry Pi 3, we get more than enough power to power that DVD player and the internal hard drive at the same time, and run Wi-Fi and Bluetooth through a Raspberry Pi 3. So the distribution that I've chosen for this Raspberry Pi 3 media center is Openelec. Now there are a couple of different flavors. OSMC at the moment is available as well. However, with the power supply that I used first time for testing, OSMC failed. And then I upgraded to the official Raspberry Pi 3 power supply, and it's a 2.5 amp, 5.1 volt device. It actually puts out about 5.2. And I used that one to power it with OSMC running on the SD card, and it also ran into some problems and failed a few times. I used Openelec, the current version 15.6 I believe, and it worked flawlessly. Plug in the DVD ROM drive with the right power supply connected, and it picks it up automatically and plays discs. Connect the USB hard drive, picks up all of the files on that and plays them instantaneously without any issues whatsoever. The only problems I did find with the Openelec distribution at the moment is that it doesn't pick up the correct date and time settings. They're fairly easily fixed, and it doesn't read the CPU settings properly. It reads the CPU temperature as about 150 something degrees, when realistically it's about 50. But that's about the only difference that I've found, or the only problems that I've found using Openelec. So the build process. The build process is fairly simple. Using the actual Raspberry Pi 3 power supply, the official one. You can use different power supplies, 2.4 amps, something like that is adequate, but the Raspberry Pi 3, even without the USB DVD-RW, draws up to 1.7 amps, and with the DVD-RW you're talking 2.2 amps. So you really do need to make sure you get 2.4 or more amps coming through to the Raspberry Pi. A standard USB cable, some of them are hopeless. They peak out at about 0.8 of an amp. And no matter how good your power supply is, if you're using one of those skinny little USB cables with the micro adapter on the end, you might not be putting enough power through to your Pi. So I really do recommend either wire it yourself or use the official Raspberry Pi 3 power supply. The difference between the cabling on the Raspberry Pi 3 power supply and a cheap little USB cable is significant, as you can see. So with the official Raspberry Pi 3 power supply, I've cut that one in half, and I've wired my own connectors in there. I have cut the second part of the Y cable coming out of the DVD player, and I've wired that to the power supply as well. So I have a single power supply powering the Pi and powering the extra power that goes to the USB DVD player. So with the installation of the Openelec operating system finished, the 2.5 amp 5.2 volt official Raspberry Pi power supply coming into the back of the case, and then splitting off, feeding the Raspberry Pi 3 itself and the additional power that's needed by the DVD player. The hard drive is permanently connected to the USB ports, as is the USB dongle that talks to the Wi-Fi remote. In this case it's a Bluetooth 2.4 gig keyboarded air mouse. And that is all you actually need in order to be able to get this project finished. What I have done is I've taken the flappy panel that would normally be the front of the VCR connector, or the front of the VCR slot, and I've wired that or glued that to the front of the DVD player so that it will pop out and the whole thing looks like it's an original unit. You can split out the power and put in a figure 8 connector at the back to make things easier, or you can simply run the cable straight through. Either way works. and you have powered your Raspberry Pi 3 Media Center. So thanks very much for watching. It's about all I've got time for this week. If you wanted to know a little bit more about this project, by all means ask questions in the comments of the video. I always check those, and I hope you'll join me again next time.